All right. Hello. Welcome everyone back to a very special election 2024 edition. The election that will change crypto forever and ever. Happy hour show. What is going on, gents? How y'all doing? We got
Chilling.
Mr. Buckrock in to talk all the things. We also have Dylan and, of course, my co-host, Mr. Big K. How you doing down there, sir?
I am doing fantastic. Reeling with all the information from our last stream and looking for, a little unwind here with you boys.
Yeah. Well, no better place to do that I don't even know what to call it, what we're going to have tonight. I'm just, Rag said it earlier, just going to grab popcorn, drinks, and sit down and watch this mess that comes in over the screens starting at 7 Eastern. So it is what it is, but yeah, we'll all go through it together. What's been going on with you guys? Everybody good, Buck and or Dylan?
Yeah, things are going pretty good. I'm enjoying the revival of the chain. The past month or so. That's been really nice to be a part of. Right
Off the mat.
Yeah, from the fucking lows, man.
What are we, like a 4x off the lows right now? So that's good.
Yeah,
I'll take it.
Pretty good. Yeah, and we definitely needed something to happen because it was getting a little hairy there. But yeah, I'm glad. I think I don't know if we spoke about this last time, but we were all in Nashville. That was fun.
That was.
Had a great time there with all the boys, and that was great. I think there's some things that we can get into that's pretty interesting regarding the election. Some bets possibly taking place on Pulse Chain.
Hey,
that's pretty cool. Huh? But yeah,
market.
Enjoying. I'm enjoying. Yes.
And Buck, how are you, sir? If you are by your screen.
I'm here. Yeah. It looks like I managed to put my son back to sleep, which is really excellent news.
Wow. So if we hear a loud rumble in the jungle, that's what it is.
You hear an irate 2-year-old screaming "Dada," you'll understand what I'm doing exceptionally well.
Did you lose your voice there for a bit because you're trying to do some spaces there for a while, right?
Yeah. I had the old spicy cough. I think I've been traveling with the family, so I wasn't really up to it, but I'm feeling fine.
Good.
What I did was I got a booster shot, and that I got my 15th COVID booster,
yes.
And that fixed it.
Okay, that's good.
Very good.
Good to hear.
Congratulations.
The only problem is, my heart might give out any second now. I'm really excited about this whole election thing. I think at least it'll be over, which I think is probably going to be a nice little respite for everybody, because it feels like this one has been going on forever. So I'm hoping for a nice clean outcome today.
Yeah, I think we're all on that same boat. Obviously, we prefer one outcome over the other, but as the saying goes, I don't have to tell you that markets hate uncertainty. So if this thing were to drag out for days, if not weeks, I think that's probably the worst case scenario. And as we get the viewership chat fills up here, we'll save the good stuff here for a few minutes in, but usually like to start with just your take on where we are with just general traditional markets, rates. I mean, we're getting another rate cut this week. How many do you see, in the next 6 months? I mean, I think the odds of them will gradually come down. I mean, the 10-year has just been pretty much going up pretty much like every day, it seems. So for stocks that yield, that's not the best of things on that side. And, there's a lot at work here. So what are your current thoughts on the general markets?
Yeah, so with the bond markets, I actually think that is kind of a good sign in a sense. You want to see the yield curve steepen. Um, you'd want to see some inflation expected in the long end. Um, I'd be more worried if those yields were dropping precipitously um, in the long end, because that would imply that we're heading into some catastrophic depression or something like that. So I actually think that's fairly good news so long as it's contained, which I imagine it most likely would be. Look, I think either outcome, they're both going to be pretty big spenders. So I don't necessarily think you're going to see fiscal responsibility come out of Washington. That's one thing. I think it's cute that Musk is talking about championing this, and that they might try to trim some of the fat in Washington, but somehow I just don't think that's actually a big priority for Trump. And so I don't think that's likely to really happen. He's a guy that is very comfortable with debt. He's used debt his entire career. He likes he knows spending is one of the key ways to kind of get the economy going. While some efficiency gains there might be helpful, I don't know if they'll matter. So just in terms of the overall economic picture, I still think it's this sort of perfect setup for crypto, and because of this, they're going to continue to spend, they're going to continue to debase, liquidity is going to continue to enter the market. You're going to have short-term rates quite a bit lower in the next year. That the unemployment tells you that that's warranted. But otherwise, you have like a pretty strong economy still in the U.S. with people still fairly optimistic. So it's a very, very good setup. And then from the political side, the setup is just excellent if Trump wins, because he's really the only politician I think we can hope for, in the next 20 years who's just completely shameless, and willing to stick his neck out for crypto. I mean, plenty of people would take SBF's money on the DNC side, but you didn't really see them doing anything useful for crypto. Right. So Pelosi and all those guys took SBS money, but like you wouldn't get it. You wouldn't get any of them like on stage saying, I'm going to make a national Bitcoin reserve, or I'm going to vote for, that. The crypto bros have really gotten Trump to at least claim that he's going to, endorse a whole bunch of really pro crypto policies. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who's going to be part of his transition team, is obviously a major Bitcoin guy as well. But I mean, he's doing all sorts of things, pertinent to Big K and myself. I don't know if you even know this, Big K. We haven't talked about it, but Trump's actually pledged to get rid of citizenship-based taxation.
I have heard that.
Yeah,
I heard that too the other day.
So that's just a massive deal for so many crypto OGs. So you have guys like Roger Ver that are basically, probably going to prison, because of this issue. But just as an American who lives overseas, we're the only country in the world besides Eritrea that taxes Americans overseas. Who taxes you based on your citizenship. But normally what happens is you get taxed just based on where you live. And this creates just a massive pain in the ass for any American expat living overseas. Any crypto bro that goes to Portugal or Switzerland or Malta, you're still liable for taxes. So Trump's actually come out. He's the first politician in my entire lifetime to even look at this issue, and he's actually said, "I'm gonna get rid of this." So I mean that just shows you how much I think the crypto guys have gotten in his ear. So I just can't imagine another politician sticking their neck out the way Trump has for crypto in in the next 2 decades. Like it just, what politicians are normally like, right? They say thank you for your money. I'll think about it. And then they don't do anything, right? And we're not a big enough constituency that they really need to care about us, right? So,
But it is a wealthy constituency, depending upon who you hang out with, and I think that's what he saw. And
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and this is kind of the like I'll use the word corrupt because it or venal because I think that's probably the right way to describe it. But it's like I have this sort of double-edged sword view of Trump, which is like every single criticism people kind of level at the guy is sort of true, right? Like I think the guy is sort of like a narcissistic, um, bloviating, low attention to detail, bullshit artist, right? Like I think all that's true, right? And I think he's got like some authoritarian tendencies, like which is part and parcel of being the CEO of a family company for 50 years or 40 years. It's normal. You get used to basically everybody telling you you're great and like you're your own little mini dictator. So I think all that's kind of true, right? All those criticisms are sort of true. But it's amazing that the guy nonetheless is so willing to just so shamelessly support crypto. Like I wanted DeSantis to be the nominee initially, but I'm just over the moon delighted with how pro crypto Trump has become just because of this. So it's just a massive opportunity for crypto if he wins. And I don't think the market's really properly priced it in yet or understood it. Like we haven't even talked about the SEC stuff, but like that goes without saying. We like as a pulse chain community, we know that already.
What are your thoughts on while we're still wrapping up traditional market talk and Trump policies, the idea of imposing tariffs to take care of taxes? Like, is that even like feasible in your mind? Or I mean, I think maybe if I'm not mistaken, like 90 years ago, that might have been implemented in some way, shape, or form. But nowadays, of course, government, of course, the one side would want, probably to double it if they could and keep, double the 80,000 new IRS agents that were just passed. But yeah, your thoughts on the tariff thing?
Yeah, you got to go back to McKinley to when tariffs were a big deal. Look, there's lots of economists will tell you that they're a really bad idea, and that may be true. Like especially in a sort of closed system, mathematical microeconomic sense, where you basically are just doing math and going, well, the best thing to do is sort of kind of Ricardo Barro style trading, where you as like the country that's more efficient at producing X good trades with country that's more productive at producing Y good. So like Dylan can make meth, and I can provide education in economics, and you see if we do trade together, like that, then society benefits as a whole. Well, maybe not if he makes meth, but yeah, if he'd made like
you consume, I learned. It's great.
So they'll tell you that's bad, but I think Trump's whole tariff thing isn't really meant to be taken to some extreme endpoint. Like what it really begins with is just him doing his stupid art of the deal negotiation tactics.
Leveraging.
Yeah. I'm going to put a bunch of fucking tariffs on you unless you give me what I want.
Yeah.
Right. And that to an extent can be a smart tactic. If it's toothless and you do it too much, or you claimed that you're going to do it and you don't actually do it, then people are not going to take you seriously. But it could be a good tactic. But I think the media's talking points in this are like really disingenuous, because they go they get a whole bunch of economics PhDs to say, well, tariffs are bad, but
like it'll lead to more inflation and stuff like that. And
well, like, because it's like that's the kind of micro sort of look at it. But in reality, what he's going to do is he's going to say, all right, Japan, like, you don't buy any American cars, right? Because why would you? But like, you also make it very hard, right? So like the 3 Japanese guys that might want to buy like a Ford or a Chevy, like, they have to pay some ridiculous tariff to get the car into the country, right? So maybe you get rid of those tariffs, and we won't put up massive tariffs on you. I mean, like a real issue here is like Tesla is in trouble if and this is maybe why Elon, if you really believe Elon's not a good guy, this is maybe one of the reasons why Elon's so on the Trump train. It's because China is making some pretty good electric vehicles at very low costs that they can dump on the U.S. market, and really make Tesla kind of expensive, right? It'd be like the equivalent of cheap iPhones, right? That are almost as good as the iPhone. And some of these cars, like I was in one the other day. Like I had to say I like the interior better than the Tesla. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the Tesla interior. Just saying. Anyway, so the tariff thing, I think, is like a pretty nuanced subject, but like Trump's tariff policy has basically been backed up by Biden. Biden didn't do anything to change any of the stuff that Trump did. So like that just tells me that that
too good.
That it wasn't
take it away.
It wasn't the worst.
That it wasn't that extreme, and like I don't have any reason to believe that things will be that much different this time in that regard.
Thoughts, Big K, Dylan?
I mean,
move on.
It's hard to argue. I mean, I get where he's coming from with all that. Makes sense.
Yeah.
And I don't think, I think the fact that people consider Trump's threats of use of tariffs, or anything else for that matter, as like possible reality, shows that like whatever teeth people think, oh, hey, cool. Hey, what's up, bud? Whatever. Hey, hang on a second, y'all.
Yeah. So, I think, he'll use it as negotiation for a lot of things. I mean, he seemed to do really well negotiating with not having other countries start wars and all that stuff, right? And we all know how people love to start wars over in Europe and the Middle East and all that stuff. And Trump kind of put a stop to that. He was able to tone down North Korea stuff. Remember when Barack was dealing with that, and it was like, oh, this is the biggest threat, blah, 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 North Korea, there's nothing we can do. And then Trump comes in and speaks to him, and, they're open communications with South Korea now. They're more, open to like, okay, yeah, we won't do anything and stuff. I think it'll be nice. Use the tariffs as a negotiating tool and work out better deals for the U.S. across other countries, like Buck was saying. And, hopefully that translates into more prosperity for us in the States. And I'm pretty hopeful about the Elon stuff. The Doge Commission, Department of Government Efficiency. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, it would be really nice to have the sort of like bloat cut out like they did in Argentina. That would be fantastic, right? That would be lovely. Don't know if that's going to happen, but something kind of along those lines of cutting and just getting rid of a bunch of shit would be great, man. Less laws, more open to the ability of capital doing new things and cool stuff without having all this shit in the way. That'd be nice, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah, the market itself has just been, I think, waiting the results of this election, especially for the M&A aspect, because nothing is really getting done, and everything, well, not everything, but a lot has just been getting shot down by, the government be like, nope, this will create a monopoly. And, meanwhile, they're going after, other companies that just, for the heck of it, Tesla and Starlink or whatever. So just as a Tesla shareholder, I'd love, on that side as well to see Trump victory, because I just don't like the thought of them just coming after him and or the company for sport, which it seems like they do sometimes. And it's just quite annoying to wake up to a headline and be like, oh, well, they're triggered by Elon today, so they're going to come after him from this angle and this angle. So I would just love for that to be done for the next 4 years, and the guy can innovate, implement FSD, full self-driving, get on with the robots and robo taxis and all that, and maybe we see all the benefits of those in the next 5-10 years. So we'll see.
Yeah, and what Dylan just said actually is quite good in terms of reducing inflation in the kind of medium term as well. One of the few things the president actually has the ability to kind of really directly impact quickly is military policy, right? They can't do too much, to the U.S. domestic economy. That they all lie and tell you that they've got the answer.
Hey,
but
Trump's going to raise and lower interest rates, So yeah,
exactly. You have an independent Fed for a reason, I guess, and to the extent that Trump can definitely have some influence on them a little bit, but it's still a committee of people there running that. So, but yeah, the economy is also just not in the hands of one person, right? It's a big intricate beast. But having said that, they've actually got one right idea there, which is what you just said, Cabana. If the U.S. has scope to really improve its efficiency and make Singapore-style improvements to the way it runs. And if none of you guys have traveled outside of the United States to some of these smaller countries that are incredibly well run, I mean, you just be shocked and amazed at how efficient things can be in some places. And obviously, the U.S. is never going to quite be like Singapore, because it's so much bigger and so much more complex, and it's a federation of states, and that's important for different reasons. But there's a lot the U.S. government can definitely do to get out of the way of people like Elon Musk, who are trying to innovate. And I think if a couple people die because of self-driving, but I don't know how many lives get saved because of self-driving. It seems to me like why on earth, 80% of you guys are terrible drivers.
You're gonna die anyway, but yeah.
But, if you have a certain chromosomal makeup, you're probably a bad driver. I won't say which one, but if you're a Zoomer, anybody who grew up with a cell phone attached to your fucking arm, like Dylan, you're a bad driver. You just have
I'm
to
a
be.
fantastic driver. Okay.
You can't be. have to
Okay.
be bad because you're
I just turn on
distracted.
self-driving and then I text right there. It's fine. You know?
Yeah,
Like,
you're distracted because you're on your fucking phone. I see you guys at the red lights. Like the light goes green and the car doesn't move, and I look and I see, oh, it's a 20-year-old girl. Yeah, okay, she's on her fucking phone. Yeah.
I'm very attentive. I don't like, people clogging up the red lights, and I don't like being the one to clog it up. So I'm very attentive with that. Just saying. Okay.
Okay, all right. You're built different than most Zoomers, I guess. So I mean, like, I feel like that's a perfect example of like, to be honest, like, let Elon kill a few people with his self-driving thing, because he's probably going to save, like, I don't know, 10,000 lives or something stupid like that.
Yeah.
So like that's a utilitarian argument that I think, like it amazes me that we're still letting people drive. I mean, how many times have you driven home a little tipsy? Hexicans. I'm gonna guess most of you are probably drunk 80% of the time.
Hey, I live in a place where there's no open container laws, so
yeah.
totally
So-
legal here.
So even if you are a good driver, odds are you're probably drunk.
Or half of everyone around me is.
So I would really think it just would be immensely, extraordinarily positive if like Elon Musk, or not just Elon Musk, anybody who's trying to solve that problem could get there quickly. I think it's in everybody's self-interest, for that to happen. So I just don't see anybody on the other side of the argument taking those things seriously. Like they just seem to think that that they should be in power and they shouldn't have to do anything useful other than sing homilies about their DEI beliefs. And like the biggest thing for me, sorry to rant about something, but is the Maha thing. Like, this is such a fucking win-win.
What is this?
You don't even know what it is.
Make America healthy again?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, like,
It's a big deal.
It doesn't affect you, Dylan, so much because of your amphetamine addiction, but the average American is just super fat.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a lot of shit going on, man.
And like it's not everybody wants to lose a little bit of weight, especially when you get a little bit older, but like there's clearly something wrong with the food supply. There's clearly something wrong with the incentives of how people interact and exercise, and and it's like, it's not rocket science to fix. Like, people need to eat actual food. They need to be able to, go out and spend time outside, walking and doing all these things that kind of help you have a nice, healthy metabolic system. Nobody ever brings this up, ever. And it's like, I go by public schools and see these kids, Dylan's age or a little bit younger, and they're all fat.
Yeah.
And
I got an interesting anecdote there. When I was in high school, I was in marching band, I was in the drum line and everything, and we would do a lot of physical activity stuff to get acquainted to, standing out there for hours on end, running drills and everything, right, and carrying everything. My little cousin, he graduated from high school recently, but they never did that. So every time they'd have a show, they'd have like 2 kids pass out. Whether they were overweight or not, I don't know, but they would always have kids passing out because you're wearing a wool suit, right? And it's in Florida, so obviously it gets hot. And it's like, dude, you can't do this without having any sort of like physical education or any exercise. Like, what the fuck? So yes, it's not getting any better, right? So just throwing that out there.
Exercise, food supply, all that shit is really rough. And I mean, other countries have figured it out too. It's not just how socially how we deal with it. I mean, there's shit in the foods here that is not in other places. Most countries are like, nah, we're good on that,
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I'm not advocating somebody in the chat saying I don't want to hand over that kind of control, and I understand what they mean, but we should be worried about this question. Like, we should be wondering why it's like this. we should be asking this question, and it's like as a key priority, because you guys want to know how to bankrupt America. Like that's how you do it.
Make them fat and lazy.
You get everybody well, not only that, but it's just like, we have to pay for your fatness, right? Like that's the problem. So yeah, like as I said, like I drive by high schools in America, and and I see these like kids that are like 14 years old. They're all like super overweight. Like there was one fat girl and one fat kid in my entire middle school, right? And they started dating each other, and it was cute. But like literally only one. In my private high school, we didn't have a single fat person, not one. And this wasn't that long ago. This was only 20 years ago, right? Not a single one. Like now, like 30-40% of those kids are fat, right? So like your whole life becomes not just way worse, but also like the quality of your health and the cost of like paying for you goes up dramatically if you're pre-diabetic or diabetic, right? So it's like, just in America, this is like this should be priority number 2 after avoiding nuclear war with Putin, in my opinion.
I mean, I agree with that shit. And it's like, I mean, I don't remember being, going to school and having soda machines and Gatorade machines and shit like there is now. Like most schools have that shit. You're just getting it, sugar and garbage food all over the place. It's crazy.
Well, and look at the Grateful Dead, right? Like like Jared'd still be alive probably. Like Phil Lesh, if the guy wasn't so fucking overweight. You know what I mean?
I mean, Phil lived for a long ass time afterwards. He's just died recently.
Yeah. That's true, actually. Yeah, there you go. I mean,
But you're right. Jerry was super overweight, and that was a combination of like heroin and bad food diet. I mean, it was a bad situation,
You can be addicted to heroin, but you can't be addicted to heroin and fat at the same time. That's not gonna
be true. And the wild thing is like what really killed him was him he checked himself into rehab, went cold turkey, and his body was nowhere near able to handle that. That's what killed him for sure. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize he died in rehab. Interesting.
Yeah, he checked himself into rehab after that last show, which I was like 9 at, and then like within 30 days, it was like, I mean, his body could not handle, because he was so you're right. It was because he was overweight and in terrible shape. So like the idea that you're going to handle the withdrawals and everything else of being on a heroin addiction like that, which was, I mean, there's a book you can read called Living with the Dead by, I think, Rock Scully. That's like, talks, it's like the seedy side of things. And it'll tell you all this, like the list of shit that he required to like come into town and play. And it would kill like any one of us, on a daily basis. So yeah, no joke. But it wasn't actually even it was just his poor health mixed with stopping the drugs. Crazy. But for sure, the poor health. I mean, that's what. I mean, Phil didn't die when he needed a liver transplant, but he was always a skinny dude in pretty good shape.
He died like last week. I had no idea.
Yes, yeah, he did. It was wild. I was just.
You literally just told me Phil Lesh died. Like I just found out.
Literally last week. It was wild. I was at Halloween. It was like a music festival in Florida, and the string cheese incident got to play Grateful Dead Fantasy Camp, and had Bob Weir. They had the Bob Weir incident. So it was like Bob Weir came and played a show with string cheese doing all. It was all Dead songs, which is pretty cool. But it was Fantasy Camp. But then Phil had just died like the day before, so it was like they. Has a touching moment for all of us to, hey, it was sad. They did some a Phil song to end it all, which, he was my least favorite singer of the Dead. So, I'll talk less shit about him now, but it was nice. It was nice. That was my favorite Box of Rain closer ever, because Phil wasn't singing.
Ouch.
All right. He's a great songwriter and an amazing bassist. Just not the greatest singer.
Yeah. He has sort of his own style, I guess. Is he singing Estimated Profit? Is that him?
Well, Bobby usually sings that, actually. He sings like those like a Box of Rain, which is, he's got this real like old, even when he was younger, it was always like, oh, kind of like old man melodies with it that some people loved. This just wasn't my cup of tea. But rest in peace, Phil. He's a cool, like, I mean, as far as bassists go, he was a super nerd and had brought a lot to the table. So the sounds that he created with that were unique. You go look at some of his old basses that he played back in the day, and there's knobs and switches and shit on there that you'd be like, what the fuck is all that? Like, what does he have half of the board wired into his bass? It's crazy. So definitely innovated quite a bit. But yeah, anyway. So thank you for our foray down musical corner. but to bring it back around, stay healthy and don't be
There
such
you
a bunch of fat asses, you know? Feel ya.
That's right. So yeah, we're doing the weave like Trump.
Yeah.
Right. So we just weave it right back. You know, we talked about the dead, but you know, speaking of being fat, you know, I hope Richard Hart is getting ripped right now somewhere. And
me too.
You know,
me too.
Make Pulse Chain healthy again.
Yes.
Go out and lose weight, Pulse Chainians. You want to be alive when your stakes come undone in 15 years.
This is true.
5. Well, speaking of the Pulse Chain / RH ecosystem, and before we get into the SEC and election a little bit more, just an update from you guys, Buck and Dylan. Haven't talked to you much about the PH ecosystem, fiat, and fame, how there's going, anything cooking, the performances there. I mean, works as designed. And more coins, I believe, are added to fiat.
Not yet, but they're in the queue. Yes,
okay.
There's
so yeah, that's what. Okay. They're in the
they'll
queue.
have PXDC, the liquid loan stuff, their stable coin. I believe the Hex stable coin. Correct me if I'm wrong, Buck. And then eHex.
Yeah,
right?
we can add any of those. The only reason we didn't was because we have been working on this new kind of prototype prediction market platform called BetDream.io. So I didn't want to distract the boys from that. So, but we'll get around to adding those coins to fiat. But BetDream's pretty cool. We haven't really been out promoting it yet properly, but it's a prediction market that's live on Pulse Chain. You guys can go try it out, and it's I think it's quite interesting because what it does is it effectively enables you to match up with other whales, basically, so that you can get potentially rather good size in markets. It's working quite well in terms of the contract and all that stuff, and we've just been improving the UI, and we'll be going out and kind of promoting this more properly in the coming weeks. So that's probably something to look forward to. There's no token for it yet, but there could be in the future. I don't know. We'll see if people like it and use it. That's always a possibility. You can go literally bet, on the election, or Richard Hart tweeting about something. We can make kind of all sorts of fun little side bets. We had a bet: would Joe Rogan endorse Trump by a certain date? And Joe Rogan did ultimately endorse him yesterday, but not in time for that bet, for example. I think this can be quite a nice little fun thing, and it's something that we've built from scratch, so it's not a fork of anything. I think once people get used to it, it could be quite useful for Pulse Chain. The kind of key innovation is that it'll take a bet in any currency that you want to make the market in. So you could bet PDI if you wanted. Oh, that's my son. Say hello.
Hello, son.
Hello, son. What's up?
Yes.
Yeah,
So what Buck was saying.
I like that matching stuff. I mean, so my question that I was going to have regarding that is going to be like, if what I see on the marketplace is correct, that you're going to have pretty widely different odds based on the different coins that people choose to use. So like if the market is heavily thick with Pulse and not with Pulse X, then the odds can be super skewed for that versus the other. At least that's what I've noticed so far.
Sure, yeah, and I mean those are kind of where you can neutralize the bet and kind of take the other side on one and the other side on the other to arbitrage that and stuff near the end. But essentially, what's cool is you can have third-party bets like the election, right? And you can post up as much money as you wanted, right? And what will happen is you'll have an open period for those. Those are called fixed rate bets, where you can say, "Hey, I want to bet $1 million that Trump's going to win," right? And then you'll have the third-party odds that'll be calculated, and you'll have somebody else that can take the bet, or nobody takes the bet, right? And then you'll be, let's say, somebody comes in and does, okay, well, I'll bet you 100,000 that Kamala will win, right? So you get matched with that portion. Once it's matched, the rest will get refunded to you, no charge. So you can have some pretty high volume coming through this on some of the fixed rate markets, which should be very interesting for statistics and stuff like that, and making the chain look
Dylan, I'll just
juicy.
kind of add to your explanation of his question, which is that when there's enough people looking at the market, those discrepancies between the currencies should be smaller.
Yeah,
right? Because you could basically take the yes side on one currency and the no side on the other, and sort of arb that. So, but yeah, there is a rather interesting potential there, we need to have a lot of participants. The one thing that worries me about this is that maybe there's just not enough active people on Pulse Chain to really make this work. So I got once we start doing like a proper marketing push for this, I'm curious to see what that looks like. But we need more than just 3 or 4 punters looking at it to kind of make these markets work kind of efficiently. But also I think it would be nice if something like this can drive adoption on Pulse Chain as well, because no one else has this ability as far as I'm aware currently. So it's sort of a novel way of approaching prediction markets. So I'm hoping that maybe people that aren't even Pulse Chain people might start looking at it seriously, if the idea is any good. But like I said, it's still something that we're working on. We have what's called a live beta, which I'll describe as everything's audited, it works, but it's still very early days, and we're still seeing how it all works, and we're trying to basically teach a core group of users how this type of market works. And it's not going to be built in a day, because unlike fiat or fame, it's not a fork of something that you guys already understand pretty well. This is something totally new.
Cheap, easy, and fast. I mean, if you deliver those things, then I think
you just got to get 2.
Part of the battle, right?
2. That's all you need. You don't need all 3. That's asking.
Oh, okay.
That's asking for too much.
So, what time is it in the East Coast in the U.S.? Are we?
We are about an hour and 4 minutes from the first results.
Oh, so that's right. I'm off from y'all. Sorry.
Yeah, close
6
to 6 Eastern. So yeah, should get. I don't even know what states are done at 7, but I think there's a few of them. But yeah, the first
Florida, Georgia, New York. Let's see.
I would be shocked if Florida is not called by like 10 p.m. Like that's
and Georgia, I imagine, will take longer.
Yeah, those fucking Georgians.
And that's the only one of those 3 that's like contested, right?
Yeah. So I guess we're let's touch on this election thing, and actually let's do the court case first, and we'll round out with the election. But so obviously, I guess this past Thursday it was, from all accounts, I had a bunch of Hexagons I think we all have met in person that attended. Nobody else from here went, right?
I did not go. I was
I did not. I was going to go the
Trick or
24th,
treating.
and then they pushed it back a week, and I had a conflict with my schedule, which sucked. But I really wanted to be there. But from all reports that I've read, and there's a great article out there by Mr. Nuclear Herbs, who will also be on Happy Hour this Friday, by the way.
Nice.
Yeah, just the summary that he wrote and all the feedback that I've gotten from those in the courtroom. The Quinn Emanuel Dream Team squad pretty much ran circles, as far as I can see, around the old SEC aspiring firm lawyers. But I from what I'm no legal expert, but are we looking at if there were to be a partial dismissal or any kind of dismissal within the next 60 days? Is that it? And then we kind of go from there.
I think they have up to 90 days, but
Okay.
most likely 60. From what on how I understood that. But yeah, I mean, like, it seems like again, I have my legal, like,
Right. I'm going by our legal
very, very armchair based here,
yeah.
but
except Herbs,
yeah.
I'd take his word as pretty much gospel on it.
Yeah,
And
yes.
he's been pretty accurate with for seeing and explaining what's going on, and
Mm-hmm.
highlighting what's next in the process and stuff like that. So
I mean,
Yeah,
it seems like for a long shot situation, like in general, motions to dismiss are rarely ever granted.
Right.
You know, there's more of a percentage chance of getting some version of it granted with or without prejudice. Either way, so like that's, even if there's a chance for that, better than before. That's more promising than majority of cases that this is something that happens in, I imagine. So,
and it sounds like the judge was quite knowledgeable of crypto and the blockchain. She asked, where's the blockchain live, kind of in reference to the jurisdiction kind of thing. So I think
it seemed like there are several places where she was, as far as, you don't want to go on your side, but like, saw things the way that Richard's lawyers explained them in a more concrete way. I mean, so much so as when there was on a couple of at least one occasion that I read about where the SEC was used a prior case law that she was involved with, and she was like, no, that's not. This is a completely different situation, and like she was very aware of the differences in the situation between that case law, which went against that particular that group. There's another security situation where they had been actively promoting and flying around the states talking about this kind of thing, and so that seemed like I said. There's several things where I was like, this seems promising. This is good. Maybe some parts of it will get dismissed. Maybe it seemed like the parts having to do with Hex, she's ready to dismiss. Seems like that stuff is pretty hard for her to say that any of that had anything to do with, like, in stateside promotion specifically. But like I said, I don't know. Maybe please be nice to us as judge.
Any other thoughts, Dylan?
I'm optimistic. From what Nuclear Herbs was saying, sounded like a lot of it was pretty nice for our favor, right? His odds, although all of our sources that we're getting are hexagons, so we have to take that into account. I mean, a toss up for whether or not we get a dismissal or whatever. It sounds pretty good, but I guess we'll see. I think some partial dismissals are in order. Like, what the hell does Hex have to do with this? Nothing, right? I think there's more ground to stand on for Pulse Chain and stuff, PulseX. But interesting that they were arguing about jurisdiction and Richard promoting and stuff. And you look at the timelines, which I've never gone and actually tried to look at the timelines and stuff, but we went to the States when all of it was over, which is interesting, right? I never actually noticed that. So that's very interesting. I don't know if that holds any weight. He's kind of streaming to the world, so I don't know if they can argue that or whatever for the duration of the sack. But yeah, I think it seems that they really don't have a lot to stand on. Does the judge say, okay, discovery is warranted? I don't know. We'll have to see. But yeah, the clapback of, well, where does the blockchain live? That was pretty cool to hear. So I didn't expect the judge to kind of say shit like that. That's pretty sweet. I'm cautiously optimistic here. And I think that's kind of like the best way to look at it. I hope for something nice, but then again, I also expect things to be drawn out. So, I think we'll see more volatility from the election and stuff right now than this case stuff anyway. That'll be next year and next year's worries. But I mean, don't get beat down if there's further proceedings or whatever, or we have to keep going back to court. He's optimistic, so we'll just have to.
And especially if by the
I
grace
might have
of
lost you
God
guys.
we get a nice result tonight. So we'll see about that. But I guess.
Can you guys still hear me? By the way.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, but I agree with what you said there, and I don't know if we got Buck with us if you'd like to chime in on any of that, or what it could hold for the future of Pulse.
I don't have too much to say about that matter, except I feel like the SEC is trying to regulate, the equivalent of automobiles with how they would regulate horses or something.
Horse and buggies.
Yeah. Whoever came up with that analogy, I think that's perfect. It's just like they need whole new laws if they're going to try to regulate crypto, and those don't exist yet. So, until that happens, I think all this stuff is just good for lawyers and a waste of time for everybody else.
Yeah. Well, at least we're like off the bottom 4x, and it's better to just hang out here than a fourth of the current price. I'm just talking hex, I guess, but baby steps. I mean, we had some big money come in at the bottom, and hopefully that's the floor. And once we get more positive news, either via SEC stuff or tonight, hopefully, and or tomorrow, ideally, we'll see. So let's, it's kind of like the last but main topic of the evening. So curious to get your take on the election scenarios, Buck. So we got obviously, Trump win or Kamala win, then it would come down to Trump, all, the Trumpfecta, if you will, with House and Senate, or split government. Same thing with Kamala. If she were to win, likely a split government, but absolutely worst case scenario would always be, a fully stacked government from the left side. I can't see that happening, but your thoughts on potential outcomes and where we could go in, Bitcoin, crypto, based upon, a couple of possible scenarios.
Yes, I think you set it up well. I think the worst case scenario would be some sort of protracted, disputed election result. That would make markets the most upset. I think markets will actually be happy with either candidate sweeping, would be my guess. That's markets in general. I think the thing that maybe isn't priced in yet is how crypto reacts to, in particular, a Republican sweep. Because as I said earlier, I think it's such a big deal, and I don't think crypto markets have digested that yet. Like they don't understand the consequences of that. And I think what you will see in that scenario, if it happens, is that Bitcoin will lead because it seems like the Bitcoin bros are the closest guys to Trump. However, in my opinion, it's much better news for everything that's currently under the boot of the SEC. That includes Ethereum, includes XRP, altcoins, Uni, and Pulse Chain. Right.
Yeah.
So I believe that's actually really bullish for altcoins, if that happens. But it may not happen like overnight. But I think that's the logical conclusion that people will start to draw. You'll start to see guys like Gary Gensler suddenly, updating the resumes or resigning. You'll see a whole slew of SEC lawyers resign. You'll start to hear about Hester, being basically preened to replace Gary.
That would be awesome.
And everybody will start to go, oh, actually, this is really good for altcoins. Yeah. So I think that's that's the scenario that we'd love to see. I think there's like 30% chance we get it.
So if Trump were to win hypothetically, and this is assuming everything were to go well, he actually wins tonight. You don't think we would have all-time highs in Bitcoin by the morning, or how long do you think?
Yeah, no, I think you'd have it within like an hour.
Yeah, that's okay. So we're on the same page then. Okay.
Yeah, I think you'll just see massive green candle if that happens. If there's a decisive sweep, and that like, by the way, could happen in the next couple of hours, right? Like it really just takes that moment where everybody looks at it and goes, oh fuck, he's won Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And that'll start to tell us, like what the broader picture is. And, he can pick up Senate seats, and then suddenly, very quickly, like the probability of him, like what does he need to take control of the Senate? It's like he needs the VP, he needs the presidency, and I think one net gain.
Yeah. It's not much because it's like almost deadlocked right now, isn't it?
Yeah, so
it's totally doable because
that's
I think
super doable.
Yeah,
right?
One of those seats I think is Ohio, which should go, and then Montana.
Yeah, exactly. So like if that scenario starts to happen, like I think that's when you could see the really big kind of green dildo of the year. So I'm hopeful that happens. I think there's like 30% odds of that according to the betting markets. So make what you will of that. They're not the biggest, most liquid markets, but at least somebody's tried to estimate probabilities with that. The odds of a Democrat sweep, conversely, are very low. Like to the point where it's probably not even worth thinking about the scenario too much. So then everything else is gridlock, right? So not necessarily gridlock's not necessarily a bad thing for markets. Markets usually like gridlock because they don't want the government to do stupid things. So they like stability, but maybe it's not such a great news for crypto. So I think this is a potential point where crypto could become fairly decoupled for a bit from broader markets. I'm not a big believer in decoupling in general. I think we're very tied to the broader macro picture, and obviously I made a lot of enemies pointing that out to people in 2020 because they wanted to tell me that Bitcoin price or Hex price was totally decoupled and that it was in the math or whatever in the T-shares, and I said no, not necessarily. But in this instance, I do think that the crypto has a lot to win or lose tonight. The good news is, I think all that kind of victory isn't priced in yet, in my opinion. Or it's mostly not priced in, right? I think there's a lot of people with money on the sidelines waiting to push buy, right? I don't think there's quite as many people ready to push sell, right? So,
I would think like with a Kamala result, like we get a dip easily, low 60s, maybe 50s. I don't know, but I think that would be quite
I don't
a
even
little.
think even that.
Really, I think it'd be an earthquake, but I think it's definitely one that you have to buy that dip if you think we're going to.
I think most people have that view as well. It doesn't matter in the long run view. I've seen that on Twitter quite a bit today, and it's sort of true. Like debasement continues regardless. Therefore number go up. However, having a pro crypto president who's going to put Bitcoin on the balance sheet and basically like eviscerate the government and and presumably the SEC would be the first stop for the Department of Government Efficiency. I would think that would probably be the first place they will go. I would a lot of Trump's tactics aren't even actually him doing things. It's just him threatening things in order to, as with the tariffs, in order to create to create movement, right? So all you got to do is basically make these SEC lawyers feel like they're, that it's a good time for them to go into private practice, and I think you'll see mass resignations, from these guys, right? Because they'll go, okay, party's over. So I think this is potentially just such good news for crypto if it happens. And I believe I don't know what's going to happen, and really nobody does. The polls are super close. So it is effectively a coin flip, but I will note sort of I'm more confident about this election than I've been about any Trump election. And in 2016, I believed he could win, and I wanted him to win, and I was following that very closely.
Yep.
In 2020, I knew he was behind, but I believed he could win, right? I feel so much more confident today about him winning, and I try to think about why that is. It's a few things. One, the betting market odds, give him a slight edge. Two, incumbents everywhere are losing globally. Yep. And Kamala is the incumbent, whether she likes it or not. She's got to wear what's happened the last 4 years. People are really pissed off, and I actually don't necessarily blame Biden entirely for the inflation. Like as I said, I don't think the politicians necessarily control the economy as much as they pretend they do. And that inflation would have happened anyway because we basically threw money at the world because of COVID. And that's the consequence of that. And I don't know if that would have been dramatically different if Trump had won 2020. Probably not dramatically different. So, and then lastly, I can just see the way the campaigns act, and that tells me that that the Democrats think they're behind.
Yep.
And the reason I care about how the campaigns, how they act, is because they have the best information, because they pay for private polling, because they need to know exactly where they're weak and where they need to improve. So they have very high quality private polling that they don't release to the public, that they use to basically go and manage their campaign. And if everything you've seen Kamala doing, like the past, few weeks, tells you, first of all, her about face, where she went from doing no interviews to suddenly doing like a bunch of random things, like the Brett Baer interview or whatnot, tells you that they realized that they were in trouble. Like if their program was working, they would have kept doing what they were doing.
Yeah, and just her like Hail Mary in Pennsylvania yesterday.
Yeah, and then
like in
her
4
Really?
states.
3 stops away. Whereas if you look at Trump, it's more consistent. Him just doing what they've been doing. No real change to his strategy.
McDonald's,
when
garbage truck.
I
Very
mean,
basic.
taking some time to go to New York, Virginia, like you don't do that if you're trying to catch up and scrounging for votes. In my mind, so
yeah, no, yeah, exactly. You're trying to impact other things like the
popular vote,
like the Congress race.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just shows you that I think they know that they're not as confident. That conversation Biden had with Obama at Ethel Kennedy's funeral, that everybody was trying to read
lip
their
reading.
lips.
Yeah.
Like that tells you something.
Put me back in, coach.
Yeah. No, I mean you can see it, like you can see what's going on. It's basically Biden kind of pretending like he's still on their side, but kind of going like, I told you so.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if Biden would have done any better than Kamala, to be honest, but
No.
I'm sure he believes he would have.
Yeah.
And then Obama kind of politely like deflecting, but you can just see that they know that what should be an easy victory over literal Hitler doesn't look like that.
Yeah, and then the name calling and all that stuff. You mentioned like the betting markets. That I just like I've put together just like a small list, and it's just like the unions and the newspapers refusing to endorse her. Like that's pretty big. Historically, Trump winning
and Google, I think yesterday, right? Google, the Indian guy Pichai, basically calling up. I think he called up the Trump campaign and basically said, hey, we're gonna fix this problem we've had with being
yes, all of a sudden, amazing timing.
Partial.
Yeah,
it's like you do that kind of stuff because
the same thing with Meta and Zuckerberg a couple weeks back, I think.
Yeah, I mean that was huge.
Oh yeah, the Biden laptop thing. He just came out straight and was like, "Yeah, man, they told me to suppress it, bro." Like that's crazy.
Yeah.
How is that not illegal, by the way? Like
that is illegal. That's the First Amendment.
It's just if somebody will do anything about it, and they know as long as the government is on their side, like they don't care. But
for the life of me, I'll never understand why Trump didn't bring that up every single day.
Yeah, like what the fuck, man?
But I guess that's why I'm not Trump, because I guess you guys don't like, people don't want to hear about that. But like to me, that is such a scandal, and it's like it's given to you on a platter by Mark Zuckerberg.
Yep.
It's like billionaire, Harvard educated,
and then you have
usually leftist Zuckerberg basically telling you that the deep state literally forced him to comply, and he didn't want to have to do it again this election cycle. It's like a gift from God.
Mind-boggling.
Trump never talks about that, because that's actually, if you want to talk about what fascism is, like if you actually go ask ChatGPT what fascism is, like from an economic standpoint, like tell it to ignore all the the fancy clothing and stuff like that, right, and the racial component that you've seen historically. But if you actually look at what fascism is, it's when you unlike socialism, which is where the state controls enterprise, so like it controls the means of production. Fascism is when the state tells the private sector what they should be doing, but doesn't actually control it.
Oh,
right.
We're getting some live updates here on the election. So far, we've got Indiana reporting and Kentucky reporting.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
Just saying.
I'm sure those will be big surprises, but yeah, I guess the momentum could be strong.
Fair.
Like, I guess the biggest thing you'll figure out is like, is it already trending stronger one way or the other?
Yes.
It's
Right.
69% RUP and 29%. Yeah. So.
Yeah. I mean,
Anyways,
it's
just.
still a little early. Like it's.
Oh yeah, of
40
course.
minutes.
This is just breaking.
40
you
minutes
know.
ish. We'll start to get a taste, and at 8 o'clock, like that'll be a nice
Yeah.
data set there.
All right,
And
so why don't we
ahead.
do something interesting? Will Trump get more votes than he did last election? Shall we
Yes.
bet?
I say yeah.
Yeah, I think that's
Absolutely
an
he
easy yes.
will. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, right. We all agree yes. Okay, all right. I was hoping if Mortz was here, maybe we'd have a bet actually going. But
we tried to get him here. But yeah.
I know
Yeah.
that motherfucker. Okay, so he was traveling or something.
Yeah.
But there was a news story that came out this morning that somebody was arrested at the Capitol building that drenched themselves in gasoline with a torch. So maybe Mortz. That's why he hasn't talked all day. Perhaps don't know.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And it's a bunch. I mean, pretty much everything we've been talking about. Just like a couple more points I, had that just leaves me thinking like there's no way he can lose unless there's wide scale corruption, like the "Are you better off" polls, the economy polls, the border polls. He's like trouncing in all those, and especially the "Are you better off" thing. I don't think like an incumbent has kept their seat, with Kamala being, in quotes, the incumbent, with the poll numbers being that bad. He's outperforming in early voting, obviously, because people are just pissed off. Now, the opposite side will say, oh, well, you're using all your votes in early voting, so your turnout on election day is going to be bad. But from all indications, I mean, you got some pissed off men showing up to defeat the evil cat ladies today. And, just poll and cycle comparisons, like he's polling better. He won 2016, and let's be honest, without shenanigans, he won 2020, and his numbers are better than 2020, where they magically took the lead in all the swing states that they needed to in the middle of the night. So they are really going to have to throw some major voting machine fraud or something out there, because I just can't see
I wonder
it.
if we'll see the erect fucking thing again this year or what, like, but it'll just be like less. Yeah, we'll see, I guess. That'll be interesting, man.
Yeah, so it's going to have to be a new form of corruption, but maybe like I'm wrong, and the vibes are wrong, but I just can't see that with all the points that he's got going for him and what Buck brought up.
Well, you shouldn't be able to predict that, right? If there's some massive cheating going on, that shouldn't be observable, before it happens, right? So
before it happens,
yeah.
But they know they can. They could try what they did last time, because it's like, oh well, let's just push the ball across the goal line, and lawsuits will take years, and then the data comes out in the lawsuits where it's like, oh well, this email was sent, oh we need more votes or whatever, and you got the cameras and documentaries and all that stuff of the ballot boxes being, or the mail drops being stuffed and harvested, is just like, man. So we'll see.
Yeah,
anyway,
I don't think this is going to be close. And
I can't see it.
And one thing I want to say about Trump
Red
this
wave,
time
baby.
is I'm super impressed with the coalition that he's built.
Yes,
and surprised as well, because I expect
that's another thing, is the Kennedy endorsement. Yeah. That's like a point or two right there that he didn't even have last time. So
yeah, and all, but even just bringing on like all these guys like Tulsi and
yep.
Elon, and like just recently, like they made ovations to Ron Paul. It's they had the New Hampshire libertarians endorsing him.
Yes, like last night, right?
These guys that would normally scoff at Trump because he's a big spender, because he's not ideologically aligned with them. They've come out and basically said, yeah, we don't like this guy, but and
I mean,
the other side, is just so conflicted, and we
And
don't really know what we're looking for.
I don't know if this is legal, but the Elon thing, the $1 million lottery until election day, that's fucking insane, man. That's crazy. Like, you got to imagine there's people out there that probably would never have voted. And now they're like, oh, I'm going to get $1 million if I vote, dude? Like, what?
The sweepstakes,
Yeah,
which I'm sure he
I
had a
thought that was
team of
really
lawyers
retarded,
carefully
that whole
craft.
thing.
Yeah.
Say that again, Buck?
I thought that was really retarded, that whole thing. I was like, this is such a gimmick. But
you know what?
Hey.
It works on Hexicans. Okay. All right.
Hey.
Okay.
Listen, the average American, will definitely get out of bed for $1 million. So
he should be giving out like all you can eat Applebee's
oh
gift
God.
certificates.
Okay. Relax.
By the way, TGI Fridays went bankrupt. I forgot to
Really?
Oh no.
Yeah. They filed Chapter 11, I think.
See, that's how you know.
Establishment near me.
That's how you know the lower to middle class is just getting decimated, man. When the fucking Chili's, the fucking TGI Fridays, the Outbacks, Family Dollar, like all that shit's getting fucked.
One of my Florida Applebee's shut down. I was very sad.
Rip. Oh no. Oh man.
But well, I guess we're about a half hour away, so we're gonna wrap it up here. Get everybody off and on the way to have some popcorn and beverages, or you do what you want to do there. I did want to bring up this chart before we go, so it's not all doom and gloom, but just kind of like a log chart of Dow returns. I know Dow is like kind of old and outdated now, but they try to keeping it alive by replacing like dinosaurs Intel with Nvidia's. But generally speaking, stocks tend to go up whoever is in the White House. So from like 1900, yes, we have these giant dips. Yeah, you can see the depression, great financial crisis and whatnot. But in the end, long term, lower left to upper right. So it's not all absolutely terrible, but the wrong person wins tonight. There'll be, I think, quite a bit of volatility in the coming days.
Yeah, well, I could pour cold water all over what you just said by showing you the chart of Venezuelan stocks.
Well,
we could become Venezuela if you get a
number.
sweep.
There's more to the trick.
Please, sir, no. Don't do that. No, please. Oh no.
All right, gents. Well, like I said, it's about half hour till showtime, and that's popcorn and beverages is what I'm doing tonight, right alongside Rags to Riches in virtual land and whoever else is out there. Cheers. Let's somehow get through this, and I guess chill ourselves before we leave here. Buck, where can people find you if you'd like to be found?
You can find me by going to your local polling station and voting for Donald Trump.
Thank
you for that. Dylan.
You guys know where you can find me on Twitter at BB_trippin with no G.
What's the BB stand for?
You know what it stands for.
Come on.
Bitches be tripping, gentlemen.
There we
go.
He's a big boy.
Good stuff. Big K.
You can find me at Big K on Twitter and on Telegram. Right there. You can find me here. We're going to do a show. What, Friday?
Yeah, Friday with the Herbs.
Yeah, excited for that.
Nice.
And maybe another guest or two. But,
or you can find me chilling on an island, not voting, just letting y'all see how it all goes. Good luck.
Yeah, thanks, buddy. I'm gonna sweat it out for you here. So
yeah.
All right, gents. Good talking to you all. Thank you for a good pre-election conversation. Like I said, we will see how this goes, and may the Space Force be with us. The Crypto Force, and we will see how it goes. Thank you, everybody, and cheers to you, audience. We'll see you later next week.